Donald Trump remains defiant after stock markets tumble following his tariffs. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is removed from office by the Constitutional Court. And the U.S. may stop issuing visas to students with hate speech against the U.S. or Israel. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. As financial markets and countries across the world react negatively to Donald Trump's tariffs, the U.S. president continued to defend the move. Trump likened the U.S. economy to a very sick patient, which he inherited, who went through an operation, what he called Liberation Day. The U.S. president also told reporters he would consider a deal in which China approves the sale of TikTok in exchange for some relief from the tariffs. Daniel Rao tells us more.
With the world sobering up to the reality of the potential scope of the impact of his tariffs, U.S. President Donald Trump appeared defiant to the critics. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One on his way down to one of his Florida golf clubs, Trump claimed the tariffs will have an amazing effect on the U.S. economy. Trump said the tariffs would give Washington unprecedented bargaining power on the global stage.
So it was a sick patient. It went through an operation on Liberation Day, and we see it because we have trillions of dollars committed to come in, trillions. What we have is we have a set of tariffs based on what they've been charging us. That's reciprocal, and those tariffs have come in, and every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat. If we would have asked some of these countries, most of these countries, to do us a favor, they would have said, no, now they'll do anything for us.
Trump also said he would consider a deal in which China approves the sale of TikTok in exchange for some relief from the tariffs.
We have a situation with TikTok where China will probably say, we'll approve a deal, but will you do something on the tariff? I think that China maybe will call and say, well, we're upset with the tariffs, and maybe they want to get something a little bit in order to get TikTok approved. Who knows?
Is there plans underway to speak to Xi?
I have no knowledge of that, but that's the kind of thing.
Meanwhile, world shares slid further amid the continued fallout from Trump's tariffs. Everything from crude oil to big tech stocks to the value of the US dollar against other currencies has fallen. Even gold, a traditional safe haven that recently hit record highs, pulled lower. On Wall Street, the S&P 500 fell 4.8% on Thursday, more than other major stock markets. The tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite sank 6%. Markets in Shanghai, Hong Kong and Indonesia were closed for holidays on Friday, limiting the scope of sell-offs in Asia. South Korea's Kospi fell 0.9%. Tokyo's Nikkei 225 tumbled 2.8%. Shares of Japanese banks plunged. Analysts say the tariffs could knock down U.S. economic growth by 2 percentage points this year and raise inflation in the country to around 5%. Daniel Rao, TV News.
In response to the Trump administration's tariffs, China will impose additional tariffs of 34% on all U.S. products. Danny Zhou reports.
The Customs Tariff Commission of China's State Council announced the new tariffs will come into effect from 12:01 p.m. on April the 10th. The Chinese embassy in Washington said the unilateral tariffs imposed by the United States gravely violate World Trade Organization rules and undermine the rules-based multilateral trading system. A spokesperson said the U.S. is using the so-called reciprocity as a justification to raise tariffs on all its trading partners. He said the move disregards the balance of interests achieved through multilateral trade negotiations and ignores the fact the U.S. has long reaped immense benefits from international trade. As many trading partners have already expressed strong dissatisfaction and opposition to the tariffs, the spokesperson reiterated China's call on the U.S. to immediately stop the wrongdoing and resolve trade differences through consultation based on equality, respect, and mutual benefit. On April the 2nd, U.S. President Donald Trump issued an executive order to slap sweeping reciprocal tariffs on its major trading partners, including 34% on Chinese goods, which brings U.S. total levies on China to 54%. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Reports say U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has issued orders requiring foreign embassies to strictly scrutinize the backgrounds of visa applicants who wish to study in the U.S. Under these orders, applicants who have ever engaged in hate speech against the U.S. or Israel will not be granted a visa. The New York Times reported Rubio recently instructed diplomats overseas to examine the social media posts of applicants for student visas. The order stated applicants could be denied a visa if their posts on social media showed they bear a hostile attitude towards the U.S. or display anti-Semitism. This move came 9 weeks after President Donald Trump expanded deportation efforts. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has been removed from office after a unanimous decision by the Constitutional Court. It follows Yoon's disastrous decision to impose martial law last December. There were mixed reactions on the streets of Seoul, but the city is calm tonight. David Garrett reports.
Celebrations in some parts of Seoul and across much of South Korea as by 8-0 the Constitutional Court chose to uphold Parliament's decision to remove President Yoon Suk-yeol.
Yeah, I'm very happy. It's because the impeachment passed, but the judges said everything about what people want. That's what we have been told.
Stony silence elsewhere in Seoul. Those who supported Yoon did not get the verdict they wanted. On the losing side, they questioned the fairness and political pressure placed on the legal process. They've remained outside the presidential residence, which Yoon will vacate as he is tossed from office. In a televised verdict, the 8 judges unanimously agreed. They decided his imposition of martial law in December violated the Constitution. The court's acting chief, Moon Hyung-bae, announcing the ruling.
방해함으로써 국민 주권주의
saying by deploying military and police, Yoon obstructed the assembly, denying democracy. Through his proclamation, Yoon violated people's rights and the principles of law and seriously jeopardized the democratic republic. Cheers from sit-in protesters who'd been calling for Yoon to go ever since his ill-fated declaration. The court went on to say Yoon has not listened to the people, these people, who could certainly be heard now. The majority had backed the opposition in last year's parliamentary elections. The judge said Yoon created chaos in society by declaring martial law. These demonstrators continued to cheer as the verdict went on.
Yoon sent hundreds of heavily armed troops backed by Black Hawk helicopters to the parliament. Lawmakers managed to get in and overrule the martial law decree. 2 weeks later, they impeached him. Yoon says the actions were necessary because the liberal opposition, which controls parliament, were blocking his efforts to stop North Korean and Chinese interference in South Korean democracy.
Yoon's impeachment means South Korean presidential elections within 60 days. Acting leader Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who survived his own impeachment process only last week, says his first thought is maintaining order.
다음 정부가 차질 없이
I will do my utmost to ensure the next government can be inaugurated smoothly, the acting leader told the nation. Polls show Lee Jae-myung, leader of the main liberal opposition Democratic Party, is the early favourite to succeed outgoing President Yoon, who said today he is truly sorry. David Garrett, TVB News.
Yoon Suk-yeol is a former celebrity prosecutor who gained his reputation in his investigation of 2 of South Korea's ex-presidents. Yoon ascended to the country's top position in 2022 as a political novice, but his presidency was haunted by suspicions of superstition and scandals involving his wife and mother-in-law. His reckless gamble with martial law last December was the final straw to his downfall. Danny Zhou has the story.
On December the 3rd, 2024, Yoon Suk-yeol stunned his nation by declaring emergency martial law in a televised speech. He accused the opposition of conducting so-called anti-state activities and collaborating with the North to destroy South Korea. Hundreds of soldiers stormed the National Assembly building, but they quickly encountered resistance from lawmakers and staffers. Martial law was withdrawn 6 hours later under parliamentary opposition. Yoon was impeached by the National Assembly the day after. The first motion was unsuccessful due to failure to reach quorum because Yoon's People Power Party boycotted. The second impeachment motion was passed on December the 14th, suspending Yoon's presidential powers. He also faces criminal proceedings. A district court issued an arrest warrant against Yoon for insurrection and abuse of power. After a standoff between anti-corruption officers and Yoon's security service at the presidential residence in Seoul, Yoon was eventually arrested on January the 15th and became the first sitting president of South Korea to be kept in custody. Yoon rebutted the charges at his last impeachment hearing in late February.
12.3 비상계엄은
Yoon said the December the 3rd martial law was completely different from past martial law precedents. The aim was not to oppress South Korean people with force, but an appeal to the public in the form of a martial law decree. After obtaining law degrees from Seoul National University, Yoon started his career as a prosecutor at the age of 34. He rose to fame in a crusade against corruption by investigating two previous presidents, Park Geun-hye and Lee Myung-bak. In 2021, Yoon tendered his resignation as the Attorney General and joined the People Power Party to hit the campaign trail. He narrowly won the 2022 presidential election by only 0.7%. Over the years, he came under renewed scrutiny for his links to shamanistic practices. Those allegations were raised again when he announced his desire to relocate the presidential office to Yongsan just 11 days after being elected. Meanwhile, the First Lady Kim Kyun-hee was mired in allegations inappropriately accepting gifts, plagiarism, and stock manipulation. Last year, Yoon was relegated to a lame duck president after his party's landslide defeat in parliamentary elections. His approval rating at a record low. Analysts said this was the reason behind his reckless martial law bid. The 64-year-old ousted leader still faces a criminal trial on charges of masterminding insurrection. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Still ahead, Rosanna Law reports on her first Beijing trip as Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Police arrest 7 people on suspicion of possessing child pornography in cross-national operation. And residents go tomb sweeping on Qingming Festival. Welcome back. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law said the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office is paying close attention to the usage of the SAR's marine resources. Law made the comments as she concluded her 4-day trip in Beijing. Mimo Singhai reports.
Wrapping up her first Beijing trip since becoming the Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, Rosanna Law said Xia Baolong, the director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, was concerned about how the city would use islands and its coastline to attract tourists. Law said Hong Kong must be innovative in promoting tourism and make use of the benefits provided by the central government. In 2024, Hong Kong and the mainland signed an amended Closer Economic Partnership Arrangement, or CEPA, lifting up the restrictions for the local film industry to develop across the border. While more than 10 cinemas have closed down in the city since last year, Law said the industry should grasp the opportunities offered by the CEPA. During the trip, Law also visited the General Administration of Sport and the National Museum of China. Mimos 9, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Housing Society is set to roll out a well-off tenant policy on a gradual basis from September. Tenants who do not agree to the new contract will have to move out within 4 months. Hong Kong's second-largest housing provider added new terms regarding the well-off tenant policy in 2018, but it only refers to newly built rental flats. As of now, around 25,000 households are yet to be included in the system. The Housing Society is going to cover all rental units progressively from September without exemption. In a recent cross-national operation, the police arrested 7 people on suspicion of possessing child pornography. The youngest suspect was 16 years old. Mimo Singhai reports.
In a press conference on Friday, Hong Kong police revealed a recent operation they conducted with other countries, including Japan and South Korea, to combat crimes related to child pornography. Locally, 7 suspects aged between 16 and 49 were arrested. Authorities seized 11 computers or external storage devices and 7 mobile phones in the process, discovering 162 indecent videos and 230 pictures of children. The youngest suspect was a 16-year-old boy. He allegedly took indecent pictures of his sister at home and saved 8 photos on his phone. Police said the sister was aware of the photo taking. The boy was arrested for making child pornography. In 2024, the force detected 80 cases of child pornography in the city, and 47 of them were connected to online activities, with the youngest victim being 9 years old. Authorities said many offenders will approach children through online games and dating apps. The force urges parents to teach children how to protect themselves in the internet world, such as blocking strangers.
It's a collaborative effort. It's not just done by the police, not only done by the parents. What can a school do? I think they should, and they do, provide education to the student as in what behavior is acceptable in the internet and what is not.
In the entire collaborative operation, a total of 435 people were arrested. The force said one country had detected a case of using artificial intelligence to generate indecent images of children. Such a case, which is an offense under the Prevention of Child Pornography Ordinance, has not been reported in Hong Kong. Ms. 9, TVB News.
Today is Qingming Festival, when many people in the city pay tribute to their ancestors. Traditionally, grave sweepers burn incense and paper goods, such as money and models of things their ancestors might need in the afterlife. Samantha Lee reports.
People from all generations gather to pay respects to their ancestors at the cemetery in Diamond Hill. Traditionally, grave sweepers usually burn incense and paper goods, such as money and models of things their ancestors might need in the afterlife. This acts as a form of veneration and worship. However, some people said they paid more for the offerings compared to previous years. This resident said he spent around $3,000 to $4,000 on the offerings, which was about a 10% increase from last year. But he said the price hike did not stop him from paying respect to his ancestors. This woman said 2 packs of Jaws paper cost her $300 compared to $200 in previous years. Large numbers of people paid a visit to the Cape Collinson Chinese Permanent Cemetery in Taiwan. Snaking queues also formed outside the Cape Collinson Sanha Columbarium, which is located next to the cemetery. As of 3 p.m., the Fire Services Department received 26 reports of hill fires. No one was injured or trapped by them. A hill fire broke out in Ma On Shan Country Park at 11 a.m., which was later put out by water bombs. The Immigration Department expects outbound departures across the coming 3-day public holiday will peak on Friday. Meanwhile, as the 3-day holidays commence today, the Immigration Department expects the highest number of outbound passengers. As of 4 p.m., more than 454,000 people had left the city. To cope with the passenger traffic, extra frontline officers were deployed to the station. It is estimated Sunday will see the greatest number of people returning to the city. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
President Trump says Elon Musk will leave his administration in a few months. The billionaire was brought in to cut government spending by running the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, but has faced backlash from many in the U.S. The owner of SpaceX was given an initial 130-day mandate, which is due to run out in May. Musk suffered a setback this week when voters rejected his choice for a state Supreme Court candidate in Wisconsin. Tesla has seen a 13% drop in sales this year, while Tesla cars have been set on fire or vandalized in numerous countries. Trump expects Musk to stand down from his position to concentrate on his companies, although the president says he'd like to keep him.
Is helping fix the government computer systems.
Elon will stay for a certain period of time, and then he's going to want to get back to his businesses full time. But there'll be a point at which time Elon's going to have to leave.
So are you going to auto company a specific date?
but I would think a few months.
Even when Elon leaves and goes back to being CEO, will Doge stick around in some kind of capacity?
Yeah, it'll still Doge itself. Yeah. At some point, just so you understand, I don't want to get it wrong. I want Elon to stay as long as possible. Number one, I like him. Number two, he's doing a great job. Number three, he is a patriot. That's why he's doing this, and he's, it's very costly for him.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says differences of opinion amongst NATO allies can be resolved. Rubio is in Brussels attending the second day of a NATO Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting.
We have friends here. We always try to make friends. These are longtime friends and people we've worked with for a very long time, and that'll continue to happen. We've got some differences of opinion, but friends have differences of opinion, but we'll work through them because the important things matter to us. You guys are better than these guys.
On Thursday, Rubio decried what he called hysteria and hyperbole in the media about U.S. President Donald Trump's views on NATO. That's despite persistent signals from Washington that the alliance may no longer be relevant. Other NATO members have expressed deep concern about Trump's readiness to draw closer to Russia as the U.S. tries to broker a ceasefire in Ukraine. At today's NATO meeting, Britain and France accused President Putin of dragging his feet in ceasefire talks. Russia has effectively rejected a U.S. proposal for a full and immediate 30-day halt in the fighting.
Countries are working to prepare.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Good night.